Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's the Word? Today is Friday, March 5th, 2021, and today the word comes from Acts 4, verse 13, which reads, "Now when the men saw the confidence and boldness of Peter and John, and grasped the fact that they were uneducated and untrained men, they were astounded, and began to recognize they had been with Jesus." Now from that, there are a few things I want to say. The first of which being that God doesn't always call the qualified. He qualifies the called, meaning you don't necessarily have to have that certification to be used by Jesus. We can see this from the verse which says that John and Peter were both uneducated and untrained, yet they were with Jesus and part of his 12 disciples. The second thing I want to take is that they were recognized as being with Jesus because of two things: their confidence and boldness. That meaning that when you're with Jesus and Jesus is with you, you'll display characteristics that show you are a disciple of him or show that you are a follower of him. And two of those things are confidence and boldness. So go out into the world conquering anything you want to do with confidence and boldness. In the college basketball portion of scoreboard watching, Georgetown was in action on Tuesday, defeating Xavier 72-66. The Hoyas were once again turnover prone in the first half, giving the ball away 8 times, which fortunately Xavier matched. The difference was that Georgetown was actually making their shots, as they built a 15-point lead at halftime on 42% shooting compared to Xavier's 27%. The Hoyas grew their lead to 19 early in the second before Xavier went on a fierce run trying to keep their tournament hopes alive. The Musketeers brought the lead down to 3 at the 1-minute 58-second marker, but couldn't make a shot from there on. Jamarco Pickett had a game-high 18 points, and Georgetown survived despite only making 68% of their free throws. Georgetown wraps up their regular season this Saturday at UConn at noon. With this game, Georgetown has a chance to finish with an 8-8 Big East record, which if everything holds would be good for 7th in the conference. This comes after being picked to finish last, which would have been 11th place. Georgetown could swing things and finished as high as 5th with a win in this game and a little bit of help. If Xavier beats Marquette, who is below them in the standings, and St. John's pulls off the upset of Seton Hall, Georgetown could finish as high as 5th. Or they could fall as low as 9th if they lose this game, and there are a few upsets. If Providence beats number 10 Villanova and Butler beats number 14 Creighton, Georgetown would fall as low as 9th. As for Maryland, they suffered a disappointing defeat on Wednesday, losing to Northwestern 60-55. The Terps started the game on a 9-0 run, but still found themselves trailing by 2 at the break thanks to 8 first-half turnovers. Maryland struggled back to regain the lead twice in the second half, including taking a 1-point lead with 2 minutes and 32 seconds left to go, but the Wildcats scored the last 6 points to pull off the upset. Maryland just could not do enough to extend their 5-game winning streak despite a career-high 26 points from Aaron Wiggins. The Terps committed 15 turnovers, had 0 points off the bench, didn't attempt their first free throw until there were 6:31 left, and they lost the rebounding battle to the Big Ten's worst rebounding team. Next up for Maryland, they wrap up their regular season schedule Sunday as they host Penn State at 7 p.m. With a win, Maryland could finish 7th in the Big Ten, or could fall as low as 8th if they lose and Rutgers defeats Minnesota. This all comes after they were picked to finish 11th, which is 4th from last in the Big Ten, so anything from here is exceeding expectations. The Washington Wizards week consisted of 2 games, the first of which on Tuesday, they fell to the Memphis Grizzlies 125-111, marking their second consecutive loss after picking up 7 wins in their previous 8 games. As frustrating as this game was, they just ran into a hotter Memphis team as the Grizzlies defeated the Houston Rockets in their last game 133-84, and that obviously carried over until this one. Bradley Beal was held to a season-low 23 points on 8 of 18 shooting. He grabbed 6 rebounds and 5 assists, but turned the ball over 6 times. A lot of his struggles can be credited to Dillon Brooks, who just did a great job of guarding him all game. Dillon Brooks told Brad in the middle of the game that he'd been studying up for this one, and his efforts really showed. Russell Westbrook also tallied 23 points on 50% shooting, going 8 of 16 from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3, but 4 of 9 from the free throw line. He dished out 15 assists, grabbed 6 rebounds, 3 steals, but turned the ball over 8 times, 7 of which came in the first half. Russell Westbrook's struggles came after he scored or assisted on 20 of the Wizards' first 21 points of the game. Speaking of turnovers, that was pretty much the story in this one. Turnovers and points off turnovers. The Wizards shot 50% and dished out 29 assists, but they turned the ball over 22 times, 15 of which were Grizzlies steals, and they allowed 32 points off of those turnovers. On the other hand, the Grizzlies only had 11 turnovers, which the Wizards turned into 15 points. All in all, Memphis did a really good job of shrinking the floor, but the Wizards' spacing was just absolutely terrible in this game. What I wrote down was, where was the defensive intensity? The Wizards came out strong in February by playing defense, which led to their 8-3 record. But in this game, it just was non-existent. They were helping in the wrong situations, helping off of strong side three-point shooters, and they weren't boxing out. Their energy guys who helped spring their change in the month of February, Garrison Matthews and Mo Wagner, really didn't play. Garrison Matthews had 8 minutes, Mo Wagner played 11 minutes, and they sat most of the second half until being brought back in at the 1 minute and 15 second marker of the fourth quarter. Ja Morant had one of his best games of his career, dropping 35 points and dishing out 10 assists, and it was his first career 30-point game. He just loves playing the Wizards. Last season, he recorded his first career triple-double against the Wizards. Yesterday, the Washington Wizards rounded out the first half of their season with a strong victory over the Los Angeles Clippers, 119-117. Bradley Beal had 33 points, but he struggled shooting in this one, going 9 of 23 from the field, starting the game 2 of 8, and finishing the first half 3 of 10. He'd go 1 of 4 from beyond the arc, but he'd get the job done at the free throw line, knocking down 14 of his 15 attempts. Balancing out his scoring, he did a little bit of everything with 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, a block, and only 1 turnover. As for Russell Westbrook, he had the better shooting game, dropping 27 points on 9 of 19 shooting, going 2 of 4 from beyond the arc, but struggling at the free throw line, going 7 of 15. He's now down to a career low 58% from the free throw line. But he'd add 11 assists, 9 rebounds, 4 steals, and get this, only 1 turnover. He'd nearly grabbed the triple-double, but he wasn't credited with the rebound as Rui Hachimura missed a free throw with 7 seconds remaining. Russell Westbrook raced in to tip the rebound to Bradley Beal, and the Wizards secured the win. Mo Wagner added 12 points on 3 of 10 shooting, but he did go 2 of 5 from beyond the arc and 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He'd had 3 steals and was a game-high plus 26 in his 19 minutes of play. Davis Bertans chipped in 11 points on 3 of 6 shooting, going 2 of 5 from beyond the arc, and his lone 2-point field goal came on this ridiculous alley-oop that even left Russell Westbrook surprised.
Now it's Kennard on Westbrook. Bertans goes backdoor, throws down the alley-oop. Ho-ho!
Every Wizards starter was a plus in this game, with 6 scoring in double figures, and they only turned the ball over 9 times. The real struggle in this one for the Wizards was free throw shooting. Coupled with Russell Westbrook, the Wizards went 30 of 42 from the free throw line, or 71%. Lucky for them, the free throw shooting didn't come back to bite them. Kawhi Leonard had 22 points for the Clippers as they had 7 players in double figures. Nick Batum barely missed out on adding another one to that as he had 9 points, but Serge Ibaka was the lone player who didn't score with 0 points on the game. As hot as the Clippers were in the first half, the Wizards held Kawhi Leonard, Nick Batum, and Luke Kennard combined 2 of 15 in the second half. The Wizards also turned the Clippers' 19 turnovers into 27 points. 12 of those 19 turnovers were Wizards steals. Paul George did not play in this game, citing dizziness after calling it a must-win. The must-win wasn't that they were facing the Wizards, is that they were going into the All-Star break on a losing streak. Next up for the Wizards after the All-Star break is a game in Memphis against the Grizzlies on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Speaking of the All-Star game, that will be on Sunday at 8 p.m., and we now know where Bradley Beal will be playing. Yesterday was the All-Star draft, and he was drafted to Team Durant, and he will start alongside Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, and Joel Embiid. Kevin Durant obviously not playing. He's out with injury right now. But if you look at his team, this is a stacked team. As for the West, or Team LeBron, not the West, Team LeBron, it should be a pretty good matchup, but my money was on Bradley Beal, and fingers crossed that he wins the game's MVP. In other Bradley Beal news, he declined the league's invitation to compete in the three-point contest. This comes after he competed in 2014, finishing second behind Marco Bellinelli, and 2018, where he lost to Donovan Mitchell in the first round. As for other Wizards that were named to All-Star festivities but won't actually be taking place, Rui Hachimura and Deni Avdija were named to the NBA's Rising Stars World Team. That game, of course, will not be played because of the ongoing pandemic. In the National Hockey League, the Washington Capitals picked up their fourth consecutive victory on Wednesday, knocking off the Boston Bruins 2-1 in a shootout. The game was scoreless through the first 40 minutes of play with a little bit of luck. TJ Oshie also deposited a puck in the back of the net during the first period, but after a challenge, the goal was overturned due to a missed offsides call. And if you look at this, that red circle is supposedly the puck, which isn't completely over the blue line. So based on that, if you agree that the puck is in that red circle, that is technically an offsides. The Bruins officially broke the tie a minute and 19 seconds into the third, but Lars Eller answered back to force some extra hockey. With nobody lighting the lamp in the overtime period, the game headed to a shootout where Jacob Vrana netted the only goal in the opening round. Both Boston and Washington were 0-2 on the power play, and they actually had two 4-on-4 opportunities, one of which coming on this play, which Alex Ovechkin was later fined $5,000 for, but the refs missed it as they only called a slashing penalty, and Trent Frederick for the Boston Bruins was given a cross-checking penalty. Goaltender Vitek Vanacek stopped 18 of the 19 shots he faced in regulation, and the Capitals and Bruins will be back at it again today at 7 p.m. The UFC's next pay-per-view event, UFC 259, will be taking place tomorrow, with the early prelims getting underway at 6 p.m., the prelims at 8, and the main card will be available at 10 p.m. The main event features the light heavyweight championship on the line as Jan Blachowicz makes his first title defense against middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. As for my preview and predictions, I'm going to say that Israel Adesanya wins, but I'm not overlooking Jan Blachowicz like a lot of people are. A lot of people are overlooking Jan because he did just win that championship in a weight division that the championship was vacant because John Jones left. Jan Blachowicz picked up the belt with his win over Dominic Reyes towards the end of 2020. And, a lot of people haven't given him the respect he deserves at this point. But unfortunately, in my opinion, it's not going to come in this fight. Israel Adesanya is making the jump up to a heavier weight division, going from 185 to 205. He actually weighed in at 201.5 pounds for this fight, while Jan Blachowicz is 205 on the dot. But Israel Adesanya is no stranger to facing, as he would put it, meatheads. Jan Blachowicz is obviously more than just, some of the competition that Izzy has faced at middleweight, but, the power is the main thing that Jan Blachowicz is known for. And Israel Adesanya, as, a finesse guy, as a precision guy, I think he takes care of Jan Blachowicz. I'm going with the knockout. I don't know what round it'll be in, but I doubt that it gets to the championship rounds, which would be rounds 4 and 5. As for the co-main event, Megan Anderson will be challenging Amanda Nunes for her women's featherweight championship. Amanda Nunes is the greatest women's fighter in the UFC right now. She also holds the bantamweight championship. So I think Amanda Nunes is levels above Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson, a lot of people have been saying, doesn't really deserve this title shot at this moment in her career, but the featherweight division is kind of lackluster, so it is what it is. I think Amanda Nunes comes away with this one, maybe not so easily though. Megan Anderson does have the height and reach advantage, but Amanda Nunes has the speed. As for the other championship fight of the night, Petr Yan will be making his first defense of his bantamweight championship against Aljamain Sterling. I really don't know who to go with in this one. Petr Yan absolutely destroyed Jose Aldo to win the belt, but Jose Aldo is old and didn't look like he deserved to be in the fight. Aljamain Sterling is a completely different competitor. He's a wrestler. Petr Yan is balanced, but more of a striker. And I'm going to say that this one goes to a decision. That's my only prediction for this one. Moving on to the news portion of What's the Word, and we'll start with the Washington football team. The news we've been expecting for the past week and a half, the team has officially released quarterback Alex Smith, saving $14.9 million against the salary cap. Those savings pushes the football team's cap space to $54.8 million, which is the fourth most in the NFL. And though the franchise has a lot of money at their disposal, I don't want to see them just throw it around willy-nilly. I do want to see them sign Brandon Sheriff to his well-deserved contract extension. They can actually save some more space if they restructure some other contracts. But, you know, what I do want to see them do is, of course, sign Brandon Sheriff and throw some more money at some receivers, aka Allen Robinson. In other team news, Washington has also released linebacker Thomas Davis so he can sign a one-day contract and retire as a member of the Carolina Panthers, who drafted him way back in 2005. This is more of a formality, as Thomas Davis already announced that he was going to retire back in December, but now he can do so with the team that drafted him, so that's always great, and a class move by the Washington football team. Moving on to Major League Baseball, and starting with the Washington Nationals. Newly signed left-handed pitcher John Lester is set to have surgery to remove his thyroid gland. This comes after experiencing some fatigue issues at the start of spring training, but he's not expected to miss too much time, roughly 1 week, and he should be able to go at the beginning of the season. In some more somber news, Joe Altobelli, who managed the Baltimore Orioles' 1983 World Series team, passed away on Wednesday, March 3rd, at the age of 88. But that is all I have for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. God bless.